Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. Good evening. We have a new friend here. Hi.
Hello.
Your name?
My name's Lori.
Laurie.
I'm a friend of Susan.
I see. Welcome, Laurie. I'm Sister Jessie. Nice meeting you. Okay. So, Q&A. Still on Q&A. Number 3. Well, for those questions that we haven't answered, or we haven't looked at, or we haven't explored, we try to explore within this next few sessions. I think we're not far from finishing. Though there are 4 pages, I think. Yeah, 5 pages or 6 pages. Okay. Anyway, so there is one question here. There is one question here. It says, what is the most difficult part or are the biggest challenges with being a monastic in the West? How can we, as your students, make it easier for you, for Po Lam, on a practical level, a spiritual level? The most difficult now is I need a tissue paper. Sorry. Thank you. Oh, sorry. It's the air conditioning. Here in Chile, around this time, it's July. And of course, the pipeline is not helping me either, nor helping my car. My car is constantly covered with dust, inside out. Okay, so being a monastic in the West, I can only represent my view and maybe some of the general view of other monastics. So let us look at it. The first difficulty is the history of the teachings. The history of the teachings in this country is so young that it actually appears to be very alien. Can I use the word alien? Yeah, Tisa?
Sure.
Not to us, right? But to hear, it's very alien, and it's very. It could appear to be very strange too, and appear to be very difficult to comprehend, right? As some people have difficulty in the Buddhist, in the teaching, some people not have difficulty with cause and effect if you explain to them correctly or properly, and then or using life examples from the universe, from the forest, from everywhere. It's easy to understand this cause and effect. But when we talk about rebirth, that's where the delicate part is. That's where people start to really have big question marks. And a lot of people, even though they agree with cause and effect or conditions arising, but they have a difficult time of understanding or comprehending or accepting the idea of rebirth. No? That's why you're here, because you don't have any problem. But this, right? But this is a big problem of especially especially nowadays when some particular sect of Buddhism is being so popular. The Tibetan Buddhism is so popular, and in Tibetan Buddhism, there's a big part. There's a very strong head on um, reincarnation rites and rituals. Yeah, so they look for young ones who are taking rebirth from the past as from the past teachers, taking rebirth into a new, becoming a new teacher and all that. And then there will be like, this is the authentic one, this is the fake one, this is the fake one, this is the authentic one. So there's those arguments. So the history of the teachings actually make it a very big challenge to me, I think, in the West, as spreading the teachings of the Buddha. Of course, in our Southeast Asian culture, this is actually really not a new thing. It's a very ancient thing. But in the West, it's actually a very, especially the rebirth thing, is a very new thing. And it also depends on how you look at the teachings of the Buddha. For me, I always look at the teachings of the Buddha as education. Then it could be easily accepted. But if you start to talk about or talk about it as a religion, then it's a little bit difficult. I myself don't see much of a religious side in the teachings of the Buddha. I actually see it more on the educational side of the teachings. And I think if we start from that point of view, it's actually a little bit easier for people to accept and for people to start really wanting to explore a little bit more. If you start from the religious side, because of religion has a whole set of fixed rules that you have to abide by, right? And then you don't doubt about that fixed sets of rules, because it's passed down by the saints and sages, and it's passed down in the tradition in really prestigious literature. So you don't query about those prestigious people or prestigious literatures. But whereas the Buddha said you do need to remember that Kama Sutta, right? The Buddha said you have, don't just believe because I say so. Don't just believe because my tradition say so. Don't just believe because my books, my teachings say so. Don't just believe because it is logical. Don't just believe because cognitively, 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 it seems true. It seems right. So he said you need to experience before you start to believe. But in religion, there is a part in religion that you don't really query, have a question mark. You just believe. But for the Buddha's teachings, he said that no, you don't just believe. You need to explore, you need to experience, and you need to experiment. So it's quite a variation, a difference. Okay, so first part is being a monastic in the West. The difficulty is because of the history being so young in here. So it's very difficult, really, to spread it, to propagate it. And we can look at the next one is because the lifestyle of a Buddhist, so-called, it could be people say like a hermit or what a cloister, cloistered. Yeah, I remember when we used to have the old place, and one of the gentlemen who came to help us to for painting, and he asked once. He said, "I don't know why you cloisters yourself in this little place here. You never go out." I said, "I go out." He means that I don't go out to watch TV. I don't go out to watch movie. I don't go out to entertain myself. I said, well, this is a very different lifestyle. I adopt a very different lifestyle, and they don't understand. We are actually quite open minded already. We are actually not very reserved, because I go to supermarket but buy things. If we did not go to supermarket to buy things, you won't be seeing us here. We'll be all dead. Because why? Nobody came in the beginning. I mean, I think now if I told you that, well, I need mushroom, can you come? Can you go and get mushroom? They said, okay, tomorrow I'll get mushroom for you, right? Or next week I'll get mushroom for you. At least you'll get mushroom for me. But at that time, there were nobody to call to get. 22 years ago, when we first came here, we hardly know anybody. We did not know anybody. Not one person. Not one person in here. Okay, so how can I ask people to buy us food, like in the Theravadan tradition, right? Everything is being offered. Like in Sri Lanka, everything is being brought to the monastery to be offered. But yet, no. I think that's why I'm ordained in the Mahayana way, because in the Mahayana, when the Buddha's teachings went into China, it took on the Chinese culture, because there's actually no tradition of like bringing food to the monastery at that time. So in order to, or even if they brought food, it won't be enough to serve the whole big sangha of like thousands of monks and nuns. So monks and nuns needed to make a way to actually to survive. So they start to become farmers. The very important crops that they do is either tea. That's why there is famous monk's tea, or rice. Because rice, if you don't have any food, even with rice, that's good enough, right? Tea you can sell. You can sell. So starting from that, then in China, the monastery becomes self-sustainable. So it's not like in Southeast Asia, or in Myanmar or Burma or in Sri Lanka, where all the monastics actually received offerings. So the lifestyle is so very different, and so people think, oh, you're useless. You don't go to work. This is my work. This is my full-time job. I work even harder than you folks. We work 24/7, because as a monastic, we decide to renounce the mundane life to take up the spiritual life. And spiritual life, there is no time limit. There's no time restraint. It's like, oh, it's 7 o'clock, then yeah, practice time. Yeah, as a mundane person, you can do that. Well, my meditation time is so and so, my swimming time is so and so, my ice cream time is so and so, my TV time is so and so, and my bedtime is so and so. We don't. As long as there is work to do in the monastery, we need to finish that. We need to do it. As long as there is things to do, like I remember when we first came here, it was 21 years ago. There was a flood warning. Everybody said that we have to evacuate. I said, evacuate? Me leaving the nunnery here? I was just like the captain of the ship. I would be the last one to leave, right? Is that no. Then they said that they were forecasting 3 days of torrential rain that will make the flood even worse. Then throughout the night we chanted. We chanted, we recited the Ksitigarbha Sutta. Throughout the night, because not just for the sake of us, it's for the sake of so many other beings, so all the people living along the river, all the animals. So we chanted without expecting anything. We just chanted. We said, well, We asked the Buddha and the Bodhisattva to look after the rain. Luckily, it stopped. The rain came 3 days later instead of 3 days earlier. It came 3 days later. So the water receded, right? So the lifestyle is different, and people sort of find it difficult. It really should not be difficult for them to accept us if they look at the Catholic religion. Catholic nuns and monks also reside in their residence and don't come out to cinemas or concert, right? They exactly the same. So, but I think our appearance is really daunting. Could be daunting the first time you see us, like no hair, or are you a man? Especially me, I look like a man. I look like a woman. Are you a woman? Are you a man? We'll talk about that gender inequality. So you know, the older I am, the more man I look like, and people always mistaken me as a man. I think because they think in the dictionary, women don't shave their head. Not like now. I mean, shaving head is a trendy thing to do now. But at that time, like 22 years ago, it wasn't. The people just look like, what is this? So it's kind of the lifestyle is a challenge to us to present ourselves, and of course, language would be a big obstacle. I was talking to a spiritual worker in Vancouver, and he said that they wanted me to be in the interfaith group, a spiritual care group. I said sure, and he said if you could invite more of the monastics. I said it's difficult. It's difficult where the Buddhist teachings in the last 50 years in Canada really was brought in by immigrants of Southeast Asian origins, Sri Lanka, Thai, Laos, Myanmar, and now mostly in the last 30 years by Chinese. And a lot of Chinese who come here, they do not speak very good English, and some don't speak English at all. So that language, it could be a barrier to propagate the teachings. Even though sometimes their comprehension of language is okay, but when you talk about Dharma, when you need to talk about Dharma, you really need a very fluent and well-versed ability. Sometimes I have difficulty finding ways to express myself. That's why I always like seek help from the audience, So it's difficult in a sense because of the language, and also is I studied the Buddhist teachings in Chinese, so when I need to translate it into English, it's so difficult to find the words because the Chinese language is so vast, it's so deep and so old, and the meaning. I don't know about the Sri Lankan language, Sinhalese. Is it very deep also?
Radhika will know.
Radhika?
We have it in Pali. So we study.
Yeah, you see, yeah, they studied Pali when they were little.
Yeah, not in Sinhalese, which is the language we speak.
Yeah.
I studied Buddhism in English, so for me it wasn't that hard.
Ah,
But
you have to Pali too, right?
yeah, it's Pali and English.
So Pali, oh, look at that, Laurie. Merits, right? Jealousy don't get you anywhere. Don't be jealous. Don't be envy. It's merits. Don't worry, you've got enough merits this lifetime. Next lifetime, probably you know a little bit of Chinese. But I totally agree. The Pali, the Pali language is beautiful. It's really beautiful, and it really can tell you the essence of the teachings. I'm not fluent in Pali, but I did a course, and I do understand Pali quite a little bit. But the Chinese um, exposition is the exposition of the Buddha's teaching is beautiful, so vast, so deep. I don't think English can compare to it whatsoever. Really. When you know Chinese, you will know. I mean, I love English. I like to speak in English. But when I read the Buddha's teachings in Chinese, it's just cannot be compared. Right? Yeah, for those who know Chinese, yes, it cannot be compared, really. But never mind. If you don't know that you're missing something, that's okay. So you're not missing anything at all, right? Okay. But I do know that you're missing something. Sorry. Okay. And then the next one, we would come to talk about the culture. I think the culture will encompass many, many aspects. Okay. Uh, please add whatever aspect that you want into it if I have missed it. Okay. First, this the clothing, the style, the like our style of clothing. I tell you, this is a very complicated clothing, a complicated style of clothing, especially when you have to climb trees and cut the lawn and go down and go into the garden, and you can ask Renzi, as a new novice, you find it so complicated, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and so hot, right? Very hot, you know. At least how many layers? 3 layers now. We have 3 layers. Yeah, and if I put a rope on, it's 4 layers. You can shiver, right? That's why I always complain it's being hot, right? My students would know me so well. Is that Sifu is coming? Make sure you turn down the AC because people will complain it's going to be hot where everybody freezes, and it's just right for me because we have so many more layers of clothes. And I remember one time I was teaching in California in August. No, it could be up to 105 degrees Fahrenheit, right? It could be like 40, 41. And I still walk around with so many layers. And at the end of the course, and one student came to me and she said, "Sister, you are such a role model for us because you're like walking along with a hot thermos, carrying a hot thermos, carrying an electric blanket on you, and you're just walking so graciously and so mindfully. It doesn't seem that the heat is affecting you." I said, "It does. It did affect me, but I'm just hiding it. That's all." But at least it was so fun. It was really funny that time. But anyway, the clothing. So thank you for agreeing with me, Ranzi. Okay. Second thing is the hairstyle, right? Now, it's getting more and more acceptable with this hairstyle. It's actually they say, "Oh, I love your hairstyle. It's so trendy," right? Especially in the hot summer, you just have to give it a quick rinse. That's good. No shampoo, nothing. You don't need anything. This is an important part. Is the thinking process. Is the thinking process, or the way that you think and the way that we think is very different. Agree? Yeah, agree. That's why my students have hard time. Ever has the long hard time, like 10 years now. Yeah, she's still fighting sometimes because the way we think is so different because of our background. Somebody is driving, coming into the driveway. Oh, somebody is coming. Lawrence. Uh, our background, the way we were brought up. Um, so it's just and the way that we are exposed to. Uh, So the thinking process actually needs to, we need to work together to really make it match. So please ask. Sometimes you feel, if you feel that, you know, the way I work, or the way I talk, or the way I say is, Sze Fu, sorry, we don't think like this. I remember once I was talking to servers in a vipassana meditation course, and I said, when I see people, like when I hear people giggling in the course, in the meditation course, and if they don't stop giggling or laughing, because it's contagious. Laughing is contagious, so you have to stop them right away. And I would say, "Shut up!" Exactly, Deborah. Exactly. I got that impression. I got that impression from the service. And only then I knew shut up is very rude. I didn't know, because we were always told by our teachers, say, shut up. That means be quiet. So that was and I got a few impressions from the servers, and now I know shut up is very rude. So I don't say that anymore. I said, just be quiet. Well, that's because that's the way we were brought up, and also our thinking process is very, very different. So we need to work. We need to work. Okay. So Eva is very good, because sometimes she get emotional. I get emotional. Then we don't talk about it for a couple of days, a couple of weeks, a couple of days, a couple of weeks. Then she will eventually come and tell me what's bothering her. So that is good. That's the way we actually work together. So welcome the friends from Los Angeles, Lauren and Teresa from Los Angeles. Okay, so please tell me if I say something you consider as rude. We consider as natural. Please let us know. Sorry, when you come and let us know, please don't say, Sze Fu, you did it wrong. No, you don't do it this way. You don't do it this way. Okay, with monastics, especially your Sze Fu, a teacher, you say you ask for permission. Can I have your permission to tell you something? Or can I have some permission to advise you, please? Yes.
Can I add something? Because we were talking about this actually lately, just in reference to the bridge, to making the bridge.
Yeah.
That's a little bit different, because we're so used to making our decisions based on preferences.
Yes.
And so with the painting of the bridge, the first color, was like, it's good. I like the color. Why are we changing the color? Because you picked a different color after.
Yes.
Like the bright silver one. And
Yeah.
Kwok said, Sze Fu said it has to be the bright color so that everybody can see it and it's safe.
Yes, especially at night, right? You agree with that color now? Totally. Great. Yeah. Sometimes I may not have reasons for things that I chose, but I'm sure there are always some, reasons in the back of the mind that that actually push me to choose such thing. Okay. Yeah.
I think it's the intention behind the decision too that
Of course.
makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Once you hear it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's just not thinking in terms of
Yourself.
Yeah.
Likes or
dislike.
Yeah, whether I like it or whether I don't like it, is thinking on the safety of people, of everybody. Thank you. That's a very good example. Okay, thinking process. Actions. We are very strange people because we don't hug. You are very strange people too because you hug. So it's a very different cultural thing. And I remember when I first came, people wanting to hug me, and I extended my hand to shake, and they look at me. It's strange. And eventually, I forced myself to be hugged. Force myself to be hugged. Now I do it. I do this a little bit more natural now. Sometimes I could give people a hug. Sometimes people could hug me, and people ask, "Can I hug you?" I said, "What for?" I just want to hug. I said, "No." Go home and hug your teddy bear. But sometimes I do give people a hug when people need encouragement, when people need support. I do give them a big bear hug. So it depends. And in actions, there are actually a lot of actions, a lot of things. You think that in a nunnery, in a monastery, so many rules. Why are there so many rules? Why? I remember people telling me that, Sze Fu, this is just a 1-day course. Please don't put out so many rules. I said, those rules are not for me. Those rules are for you, to protect you, to allow you to fully utilize the day to the fullest for your own benefits. And gradually, I hope that you start to see those rules are actually crucial part to the practice, right? So the actions always have a wholesome intention behind, and that's the most important thing. If you have a wholesome intention behind your action, when your action is different from our action, still it's okay, because it starts with the wholesome intention. Okay? And this is the most difficult part. This is the most difficult. The continuity of the lineage. Look, how many households are here tonight? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. How many? 17. More than 17 people tonight. 17 householder, but only how many monastics? 3 fully ordained and one quarter ordained. It's only a handful. And we are all in our 60s. No, not yet 60. Are you? Oh, okay, sorry. I mean, the 3 bhikkhunis are already in the 60s. Now, the most urgent thing is, how can we pass the baton? How can we pass that baton down to the younger generation? And the younger generation needs to be so mature that they could take up that responsibility, right? And it's really not easy. When I first came, there's no light here. Oh, there's now. When I first came 22 years ago, I was in my late 30s. Yeah, late 30s. At that time, I was considered myself to be young, but I was very immature in my practice. Very immature in my practice. But good thing that we are in such a remote place where not many people come, and not many people come and challenge us of our practice either. And so we could actually grow very deeply and very fastly in this space. So we are blessed in a way in this. But the greatest challenge is, who is going to take the baton? This is what worries. That is one big worry in my mind, constant worry. My lawyer, our lawyer, I've known him for 21 years. Starting from year 10, he already started to tell me, hey, Yin Kit. He only called me Yin Kit. Yin Kit, you found your successor? Every year he would remind me, Yin Kit, you found your successor? Yin Kit, have you found your successor? So have I found the successor? Not my successor, the successor who can actually come and take up this responsibility and surpass what I'm doing. Let the universe look after it. Okay? So is that good enough to answer that questions? Yeah? Good? All right. So and also in this being a monastic in the West is one part is the culture I could act add in is the financial difficulty. The financial difficulty as in Southeast Asia is really not is a lot easier. As I said just now, no monks or nuns will starve in Southeast Asia. I could easily say that, right? Not in China, not in Taiwan, because even though that they are not affiliated with any religious organization, people would support. As long as they will have like a handful of people, they'll be fine. But here, when we first came, I remember Sze Fu said to me, is you need to, there are 3 conditions, remember? Did I tell you the story? Yes. Did I tell you the story about how we get to Chilliwack? Yes, okay, so you know. So there's one condition when we look for property is we have to have some land that we will grow our own vegetables so that we don't depend on householders. At that time, of course, Sze Fu said at that time. And he was right. He was really right at that time, because if we were depending on the householder, we would be really starved to death. And I think the first person who actually brought us offering, I don't think he actually considered it as an offering, but it's a good neighbor relationship, because I always empty those bags of grass into his lawn to feed the goats. That is the next property, the one that we are building on now. Because we have a lawnmower, and when I cut the grass, I would empty the bag of fresh cut grass onto his lawn. So when I saw he has tomatoes and all that, I asked him how we can grow tomato. So the first thing that actually somebody gave us from the neighborhood was a big tomato, 2 pounds, 2 pounds, 1 ounce. He actually brought it and he asked me to weigh it. And it is so strange. I'm not complaining. I'm not complaining. It's so strange. For the last 20 years, every year we give Christmas presents to all the neighbors here. We never get one back. I'm not expecting a return, but I wonder, why is it like this? Can you shine some lights?
Maybe they're afraid you're going to try and convert them by befriending them.
Oh, really? 21 years? I'm still trying? Ah, okay.
I would just guess that they think you're not that interested in Christmas, and so it would be.
But we give them Christmas gifts.
I know, but it would be confusing for them to try and think about what they might give you. And that you
Ah. Oh, I'm
certified Christian.
yeah. No, one neighbor actually gave, except Grandma Art and Ella. One neighbor actually gave. Louise always bring her British style of marmalade, because that's what I told her. I love the English style marmalade. Yeah, so strange, huh? 谭师傅, huh?
I think it is strange because I mean, if you have no idea what to reciprocate with, just a thank you or even a card
Yeah, no,
would have been
not even,
appropriate
huh?
for anything.
Yeah, not even that. 21 years. Very strange. And we thought, well, because Christmas is such a big thing in your culture, we respected that. So that's why we wanted to give a little gift, just as a sign of like, good neighbor, right? But never. Strange, huh?
It is actually strange because I don't,
Yeah.
even in our culture, like we're always raised to say thank you. And even said, if when in doubt, at least send a card.
Yeah. Mm,
There's still some etiquette
yeah. So,
we're taught.
huh? Very, very different. Maybe this is a very different neighborhood. No self. So we can receive a gift. We don't need to go give back. No self. That's okay. The nuns don't mind. No, the nuns don't mind. It's just very strange. That's all. It's not that we mind. It's strange. It's strange. But don't.
Sister,
Yeah.
Just a question, if you don't mind. Now, you answer that question from the point of view of foreign monk, like kind of like you.
Foreign monks. Yeah.
Foreign monk. Now, the practice has been here like 20 years, 30 years in Canada now, right?
200 years.
Well, the Buddhist practice, Buddhism.
Okay. Yeah.
And it's kind of relatively short, right?
Very short.
And now I think new people are, getting
Yes.
knowledge. So the history of the teaching, I know it's an issue, definitely. No, I'm not disagreeing with you at all.
Yeah.
But isn't it getting better now?
Oh, yes, of course. Otherwise, how can we have a congregation like this? Of course, it's improving. But these are just challenges.
Yes, no, I agree.
Yeah,
I'm not
yeah.
disagreeing with you at all.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I mean, I remember when we first started Dharma sharing. Remember in the old house, sometimes we could have. I remember one time we only have two people, and John and Lynn from Cultus Lake. Yeah, so only two people. And one time there was only one person. Even one person, I still do Dharma sharing. Because why? One person is one person. 100% and one person is still the same. You promise to do it, you have to do it. So now at least we have a steady core group now. It's improving. And in the midst of Bible Belt area, right? In the midst of Bible Belt area, it's really not easy. There is a question, says, what is katina? Katina, I think a lot of you, anybody who doesn't know katina? Okay. Of course. Katina is actually a big thing in the Buddhist tradition. And it is actually a rite and ritual or ceremony or celebrating days. And in the old times, I tell you, Katina in the Chinese tradition has a very different story. But I'm telling you from the old time, the Buddhist tradition, Buddhist time tradition. During the Buddhist time, monks didn't have homes, right? They scattered. And eventually, when the monks' number increased, they gather together, and then they come monastery, they come sangha. So people building homes to accommodate sangha members. So in the old days, there are a lot of monsoon rains in India. I'm talking about India. So not in the old days. Now they still have that monsoon rain. So then they call the rainy time is starting from it's later in the year, like July, August, September, October. Okay, so the other monks go out for alms, right? So they would have killed a lot of bugs and insects and ants because they walk. So the householder came to the Buddha and said, even the Jain tradition, they they don't go out during the monsoon time. Why would you monks? Why would the sangha go out during monsoon time and kill all these bugs and ants, even though with no ill intention behind? And the Buddha, of course, said because we had to go on alms, right? Alms round for getting food and necessities. So the householder said, then, okay, we will come to you. We will offer food. We will offer necessities. You don't come out. So the Buddhists set up a rule: is monsoon time, the rain, they do a rain retreat. So in those few months, they meditate, they study, and they improve themselves and they grow. And at the end of the katina, at the end of that period, and they would what? They would go and pay respect to the Buddha. And when they go and pay during those 3 months, 3 or 4 months retreat time, the sangha members practice together, and at the end, then they have a ceremony. They will have a ceremony to ask the fellow sangha members for any advice that they have on the verbal, physical, or mental mistakes. So at the end of the retreat, they would come together and ask, please, fellow monks or nuns, please have your compassion on me, and if you hear, if you see any of my mistakes, whether verbal, physical, or mental, please tell me, please advise me so that I can improve. Okay, so this is a very, very important, actually, rite and ritual to be done at that time, and we still do this now here. So one, and then the second thing is they would go at the end of the retreat to go and pay respect to the Buddha. And at that time, Buddha said that there were 30 monks who wanted to go and pay respect to the Buddha, but it was because even though the monsoon has really died down a little bit, but the roads were still muddy, and then they because they walk, so by the time they got to see the Buddha, they were all muddy, and the ropes were torn, and the feet were dirty, and the Buddha asked, "How was your retreat? How was your rainy retreat?" They said, "Oh, we went really well." "And did you get enough food?" "Oh yes, we got enough food." And then when the Buddha said, "But your ropes are all torn." So the Buddha, at that time, the Buddha said, I just received this offering of cloth. Okay, so you go, I'll offer that to you, monks. You go and take that and to make new ropes. That's where the offering of ropes actually come from. Okay, so that's how actually it started the whole katina. It's the offering. So the main offering is really offering of ropes on katina, and then offering of food. So this is actually, katina is the act of it's a day where you actually perform an act of generosity, giving, supporting. Why? Because you are grateful for the teachings that the monks will be able to share with you later on. And you are grateful of the monks being there because Dharma is being taught. The lineage of Dharma actually flourished because of monastics, not because of householder, right? If it's because of householder, then that will be a danger. Like in Japanese Buddhism, or in some sects of Tibetan Buddhism, is they can get married, they can have family. And when you can have family, you can get married. How I always wonder, so what do you renounce? Where does renunciation happen? How does it happen? Right? And the first thing ever taught by the Buddha is you have to renounce the lust of sex. That because he said sex is a poison to you on the path up to enlightenment. And if you don't develop that celibacy, he said, it's very difficult. It's a big obstacle. Because why? Because we will be constantly indulge ourselves into that kind of craving for that kind of sensations, the sensual desires. So that's what that's why the I think it's very important that the lineage has to be passed on by monastics. Okay. So in gender inequality is going to take a long time. So these two, and so the first thing I said, seeking advice from the fellow nuns is called Pavarana. Pavarana, Pavarana, Pavarana. That means asking the fellow nuns or monks to advise you, and then this is the katina, and then the third very important rite and ritual among a sangha is the bi-weekly recitation of the precepts. Because when we recite our precepts bi-weekly, that is, if we have broken any of the precepts in the past 2 weeks, when we recite, we voice out our mistakes and we seek repentance. Or we seek penitence from the Sangha, or we seek penitence from the universe, or by voicing it out. Okay, so these are the three very, very important rites and ceremonies in the monastic world. And when you think of this is actually very, very foreign to the Western culture, isn't it? Rain retreat? Oh yeah. People wanted, I remember I asked people, why do you want to renounce us to become a monastic? Is that, oh, so that I could meditate all day. Oh yeah, you could meditate all day and you think that you're going to be a good monastic? Meditate all day is not it's not the privilege of being a monastic. For one to improve, it's not just through meditation. Meditation is very important. What else you need to cultivate? Virtues. How? Meritorious actions. Yeah. Meritorious actions. Right? If you hide yourself in the cave 20 years, do you think you can get anywhere? Once you come out of the cave, you lost one of your slipper. And that's it. I remember this last course. One student came to me and told me, I lost my slippers. I said, oh, somebody took my slippers. I said, and I did not have any slippers to walk to the Dharma hall. So I took my runners out. I said, oh, okay. And I found my slippers outside the Dharma hall. I said, oh, I know somebody took my slippers. That somebody must be a thief. I said, mind your language. I said to her, mind your language. Don't use that word because you did not see. You did not see anybody taking your slippers. That is your projection. Somebody has taken your slippers. And don't use that word thief because you did not see it. If you saw it, then you can use it. And I said, listen, there will be Dhamma talk about losing your slipper when you come out from a meditation hall. I think it's tonight. Listen carefully, all right? And that night, that evening, he talked about losing a slipper when you come out from a Dhamma hall. It was such a laugh. And you know, after she came to me and she was furious. And I said to her, I said, so and so, I think this is a great lesson for you to learn how to let go. Let go of one slipper and you probably win another pair of shoes. And she looked at me and she said, are you serious, sister? Are you serious, teacher? I said, yeah. Yes, because I tell you, losing one pair of slipper, I think there is a lesson behind this slipper. There is a lesson. There's some lesson. Think about that. Contemplate on that for the next hour or so and see what you come up with. You know, at the end of the day, she came to me and she said, sister, teacher, you were right. I said, did you learn a lesson? She said, a great lesson. Because when I was young, my shoes were stolen. My shoes were stolen by my brother. And I was so angry. Why did he steal my shoes? I said, did you see him stealing your shoes? I did. Where did he put? She said, he put them under my bed. I said, that is not stealing. I consider that stealing because he did not ask for my permission. And you still haven't let that go? No. Because of many other stories. You still haven't let that go? No. I said, oh, no wonder why it happened tonight. You lost one slipper or two slippers. I said, have you learned the lesson now? She said, yeah. Because I am so attached. I'm so attached to my past experience. I could hardly let go of all the anger, all the ill will, all the animosity that I had towards my parents. Because they love my brother so much. This is always my vision. They love him so much, they don't love me, so I don't get anything, blah, 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 blah. I'm the bad girl in the family, blah, 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 blah. I said, you see? You have to thank that pair of slippers disappeared to the Dhamma hall. I don't know how it walked to the Dhamma hall. It's not necessary to know. It will never find the answer. We will never find the answer. But I hope you learn from that lesson. She was smiling all the time throughout the whole course after that. She never came back to me for any complaint. So, so that is one thing to learn, is to let go. Okay. So, any questions tonight? I think we will talk about gender inequality the week after this. We can talk about that tonight. It's such a long thing. But if you have time, take these two suttas home. First one to read is Soma Sutta. Okay, in the Samyutta Nikaya, chapter 5, Soma Sutta. It's talking about a woman called Soma. And then the next one is called Sanoga Sutta, talking about bondage Sutta. Okay, read the Soma first and then read the bondage sutta, and then we can go for discussion. And these two actually talk about gender inequality or gender equality or whatever you want to put it. So we will have a serious discussion about this. Okay. So the question and answer is still not finished. So we will still have a Q&A for. Okay. If you still have some questions, you can still email them in. we can have a couple more sessions on Q&A. I think Q&A are very good because why? These are your questions, your personal questions, and I think it's actually a very, very useful to actually have it clarified or have it explained or have it being discussed. Yeah? Good. So far, so good?
Yes.
Good. All right. Okay, let us dedicate our merits. So we bring our attention back to this body, to this breath, constantly being aware this truth pertaining to our existence. The law of impermanence, changing phenomenon. We allow this good thought to arise in our mind for all the benefits that I gather from listening, studying, practicing the Buddha's words. May I share with all beings, visible, invisible, human, non-human, big or small, far or near. May they be free of enmity. May they be free of miseries. May they start to live in a world with brightness, warmth, and experience compassionate love and peace, and be happy. May more and more people will encounter the words of the Buddha, study them, practice and experience to be able to liberate themselves from their own dissatisfactions, own entanglements, and be happy and be peaceful. Good.